Greetings, Captains! I am Yuzrael, and welcome once again to the exploits of the Republican Romulan warbird Bloodwing. We're going to kick off pretty much exactly where I left it last time, and I have to note that that is a Federation transporter effect, not a Romulan one, so that's something that needs to be tweaked right from the start. Alright, as I said, we're exactly where we left, so we need to go and see the Lieutenant to customise our outfit. But first, the help system has pointed out that we have the skill points to spend. I do note that it might be a little easier to just say, hey, if you press K it advances to the next tooltip, but that might be more awkward to program than it sounds instead of simply saying click window to acknowledge. You can improve your bridge officer's ground skills. I can't help but think that it would be nice to say roughly what improving those skills does, but it's in the description for each skill, of course, so that might possibly be unnecessary repetition. Then again, given that players are potentially coming into this completely cold about game mechanics, perhaps there's no such thing as unnecessary repetition, or rather unnecessary repetition. Unnecessary reputation comes at level 50 at this point. I also have to note a little bug that's on the skill window here. Despite the space skill points not all being allocated, the game is insisting that they are. Witness me allocate a few more skill points here, if I can manage to hit the button like so, despite what the tooltip on the skill window was saying about space skill points all being allocated. Alright, so that's done. Let's go and find this tailor. I have to admit, the environments in here are definitely a cut above what Cryptic were producing a few years ago, and it seems that Romulans get really spacious, extra large turbo lifts. Hey, I'm not complaining. Eases on congestion. Right. Nice transporter room, very colourful. Very definitely shades of green and brown, which is what you'd expect from the Romulans. Little tooltip about the minimap there, just in case you hadn't already worked out the hint from 40 minutes of gameplay. Alright, let's go have a look and see what else we've got. If the regular ship interiors are this detailed, I will be very, very impressed. But we shall see. Right, check the map. So we've got the assignment officer and the chief medical officer there. Taylor's off to our right, along with ground vendors. And looks like that's either the skill trainer or the bridge officer vendor. And ship vendors and NPCs are in the next room over. Right, one lieutenant. Although I have to note that lieutenant is not a Romulan rank. I believe there is sub-lieutenant, maybe lieutenant, sub-commander, commander. Why they don't just go with the Riantsu ranks that Diane Duane put in the Bloodwing series, I do not know. That would certainly help the impression of, hey, you know what, this isn't the Federation, this isn't just reskinned Starfleet with a coat of green paint. Right, new tailoring setup. Now, I was under the impression that we were supposed to be getting the Romulan Republic uniform as that last mission, but I don't see it here. Did I miss something? Did I miss something? I don't think I have done. And you'll have to excuse me managing to accidentally drop this into windowed mode. That little X there, turns out it didn't actually close tailoring mode at all. So if the video quality has gone squiffy, I do apologise. Alright, back with the good lieutenant. And that uniform's not in my inventory either, but let's quickly equip the body armour. Okay, so that doesn't modify the costume, so that's still a unique thing to Starfleet, that you have the option for most body armours to show your... or rather, for most body armours to show on your character. Alright, train your bridge officers, standard stuff. Let's go have a look at the ship vendors as well. But first, pull the inventory and actually get these shields properly equipped. Details. Important details, nevertheless. Standard singularity core, warp 5 maximum. Getting anywhere is going to take an age. Alright, the ship agents. We'll start with the Tailor, for want of a better term. Alright, so nice nebula background. So we have the classic aged Romulan look. What else do we have? Type 1, Type 2, which is looks like a slightly modernised version of the classic paint job. Type 2 brown, I have no idea. You tell me. And Type 1 isn't too bad, but I'm not entirely sold on this detailing around the edge. Again, personal taste, as all these things, but let's just go with the classic design. It's been good enough for the last 200 years, why change it now? Do we have any advanced things? Nope, no advanced models available. So just cancel out of that, keep with the default. And what else do we have? A hint about waypoints on the map. Right. Okay, so that's the chief engineer. And what do we have background here? Select your ship. And right, this must be the ship vendor. Okay, looks like we're going to get some details on the new warbirds with a bit of luck. Right, so Taulis light warbirds, standard stuff, 2 fore, 1 aft. Basically, it's a take on the Miranda, pretty much the same numbers. The Tavaro's the upgraded version that's being sold with the various pre-order packs, of course. Alright, enhanced battle cloaking device. I'm going to have to remember what that does. Okay. Extra console slot on the Tavaro in addition to the standard warbird setup. What else do we have? The Delan's, a slightly heavy version, gets 2 science ensigns. Enhanced version gets a universal ensign slot as well. Definitely a high thing. I know that we suddenly have required rank Centurion there to use the Dale and the Dalan. So, not bad. Right, next up we've got the Mogai. Gets you a lieutenant in science and what I assume is a lieutenant commander equivalent in tactical. And of course we have the Valdor, which is the Z-Store version. I'm going to assume it won't look like that when it actually hits the game. What do we have? Extra tactical console by the looks of it, and a universal slot rather than the second science slot. Interesting that it dumps Lieutenant Engineering to make room for it, though. So, strictly speaking, it's a not quite upgrade. If you want Lieutenant Engineering powers, you're going to have to go very engineering heavy. Of course, at that kind of rank, it doesn't really matter. Provided you've got at least 1 hazard emitters handy, you're pretty much golden. Alright, the Doderex, the classic Acceptors substitutes. Much heavier. Wow, that's a single-digit turn rate. Okay. What do we have? And of course, the Drid Thau enhanced version. Very much a heavy engineering ship. Cruiser equivalent. Cryptic said as much in the dev logs. Again, you get that universal station. I suspect that's going to be the big selling point for a lot of the enhanced versions of ships on the Romulan side. Doobie-doobie-doo, doobie-doobie-doo. What else do we have? Right, the Hapax. Again, that doesn't look like it's in. And looks like we get some max rank retrofits as well. I can't help but think that it would be nice to have the Taulis costume available, but hey, maybe we get it. And oh, that confirms speculation that's been going around since the Harkona first appeared in some images. Those of you who've seen it will be aware that it looked like it could split into 2 ships. Guess what? It can, provided you're willing to cough up the Zen. Right. Well, I'm sure we can break those numbers down in more detail later. I still want to know what the consoles can do before I start forming an opinion on whether or not that legacy pack is going to be worth it. Riansu is not the Romulan for I am a rich git. Right, Datan. Whoa, that guy turns fast. Now, guessing that's proximity, so Yep. In, spin, out, spin back. Yeah, I can see hours and hours of mindless fun with this guy if he's going to be making a habit of it. Right. Right, okay, that joke was getting old. Right, Mr. Luther, sir, what do you want? Right, so Temar and the crew are looking for new Romulus. Bear in mind that this is still contemporaneous with the beginning of the Federation and the Klingon plot lines, so new Romulus hasn't been found yet. They're still on the flotilla looking for a new home. So we can talk to him about his optimism, or rather, candid honesty. Yes, we've spent the last 200 years screwing both sides over. They may not trust us as a consequence. Right, Tovan has got a bit of personal background here. I thought we were supposed to go back and talk to the commander. Apparently the game has other ideas. That's a little abrupt, but looks like we're heading off to the ship instead. Well, I suppose it saves us walking back to the office. Right. Ah, that's why it doesn't have us go and talk back to Temo. It's going to use this moment to introduce the remote contact system. Well, that's pretty decently handled. You have to introduce people to that element eventually, and there wasn't really a good moment beforehand. Ignore the veterancy spam. Who cares? Right, maybe a while before I pick up the monkey. Okay, next mission, the Helix. Okay, they're bringing in the Suliban. Alright, that's interesting. Okay, this is going to be the equivalent of the Azura mission, isn't it? Stranded in Space, I think it's the official name, and we're picking up our science officer. So, looks like that missing sister isn't going to be a second bridge officer. Well, she may still be, you never know. I somehow suspect that she won't be if she's not turning up fairly rapidly. Personal betting is that she's either working for the Klingons, excuse me, or she's working for the Tal Shiar and we wind up having to kill her, one or the other. I also note that the game hasn't yet introduced the transwarp option to the player. Well, I suppose on the basis that nobody could afford the cash at this stage unless they're sugar daddying. Right, also interesting that the Tau Dewa sector map explicitly refers to New Romulus. Bear in mind that we haven't found it yet. That may just be a fudge. STO doesn't really have phasing technology yet. I'm tempted to suggest, however, that putting the New Romulan players into a little version of Tau Dewa all on their own would allow Cryptic to A, keep that plot development a surprise, right, like it's a surprise to anybody who's got an alt or a main in the game at the moment, but hey, you never know, there might be some new players with this. And it also allows them to essentially have a system, excuse me once again, have a system in which the new Romulan players are relatively sandboxed for their first few levels. And, well, you can't really grief in this, but they don't have things like zone chat spam to deal with. Oh, who am I kidding? They'll just make new characters and zone spam them like that. Oh, well. Where are we? Suliban system. Another thing Cryptic might consider, I suppose, is using these long hauls between systems to say, hey, while you're in transit, update your skills, check your inventory, install that upgraded equipment that we gave you and didn't tell you how to equip. Details, little things like that. Or maybe introduce people to tweaking the UI, because the bridge power tray's in a really awkward position right now. But anyway, let's get on with this. Okay, so that's a nice callback to Enterprise, that this is where the Helix station, or at least a Helix station, was. Although they appear to have had a few things come unbolted. Alright, a Tal Shiar warbird. Looks like they want to be sociable. Well, let's oblige. Captain Telek. Really? Violation of Tal Shiar Security Order 63R. No officer shall play Klingon opera outside of a sealed environment. Okay, I think you meant 63S, but no matter, looks like we're going for a fight. So, cloak up and just sneak around behind him. The AI really does have a problem hunting cloaked vessels, something that's never really been addressed. Alright. Tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. Get appallingly close. Really, you'd think we're practically breathing down his tailpipe. Charge the high yield, line it up, dump the cloak, and fire. And oh god, I just got a little bit too close there, didn't I? Right. Okay, nice of the game to inform us about singularity powers, but dear god, they should really put a safety warning on that high-yield plasma torpedo. Hey guys, this does actually have an area of effect and you can blow yourself sky high with it. Oh well, live and learn. And they've got Suliban in the game, that's a nice touch. Right, only civilians on the Helix. We're not here to rob you. Well, we're here to take the Romulans off your hands because, hey, the Tal Shiar will do so otherwise, and they probably won't act anywhere nearly as nicely as we're going to, because we're going to tighten a few nuts and bolts for you. Right, let's go. Helix Arm Alpha. This looks like it should be a straight move in and use. Yep, there we go. That's kind of fancy. Quite nicely done. Right, you can cloak to improve your damage. You must decloak before you attack. You cannot cloak in combat. That is wrong. Of course, this is a warbird. It has a battle cloak. So, as I demonstrated not 3 minutes ago, you can cloak in combat in this ship. However, maybe there's a plan to give this particular warbird a standard cloak, which would make the tooltip accurate, or maybe Cryptic need to fix that tooltip. So, I don't know, say ships with a battle cloak can cloak in combat, ships with regular cloaking devices cannot. Right, once again, torpedo at the backside. I have no idea what they made that particular warbird out of, but it exploded very nicely. Which does leave another warbird to deal with. Gods, these guys are fragile. Well, I suppose it is supposed to be the ease you in gently option. It might also not hurt to have an explanation of what the green black hole looking thingy you sometimes get when Romulan warbirds explode is. Now, I'm guessing it's the singularity core getting a little bit loose, but a new player to the game might not necessarily work that one out. Alright, one more to go. As soon as Delta connect, we can negotiate a transfer. As soon as Delta is completed, we're going to be negotiating with phaser banks, I suspect. Or rather, plasma beam banks. That's something else that Cryptic haven't covered. The various weapon types, both phaser, disruptor, etc., and beam, cannon, turret, likewise, etc. Alright, battle cloak again. AI promptly loses track. 3 warbirds this time. Well, I hope they're sturdier than the last lot. Alright, sneak by, line up, and high yields off cooldown, so I think you can all guess what comes next. From a safe distance this time. Zap. Yeah, that singularity core explosion thing definitely needs to be explained, as just the whole ships go bang in spectacular fashion. Bear in mind that you do not anymore have to have played the Federation tutorial to get access to this. That always used to be the case for Klingons, no longer, so Cryptic cannot really make assumptions about what the player base is going to know going into these missions. Alright, so Satra, excellent. Well, this is going to be an interesting job interview. Alright, and we did say we'd ask about her in a Kev, and no, she hasn't heard of him. Rather, heard of her. Alright, so we are probably done here. Let's just beam in the refugees. and see if anything else shows up to be exploded. There we go. And yes, there's another... A battleship, you say? Right. Lieutenant Raven. Suddenly they know who I am. Right. Well, nice of them to advise the cloak. Also nice of them to say, right, you know what? Hey, we could just slip away here, but no, let's just kill them all. Good to see that Torval's got the correct attitude towards the Tal Shiar. Yeah, we have covered full impulse already in the tutorial. Maybe adding in a reminder wouldn't hurt, but I don't suppose it's strictly necessary. Right, line it up. Charge the torpedo, you know what's coming. Once power levels come back up to optimum, that's something else that I don't think has been properly covered in the tutorials as yet. The fact that you can adjust weapon power. So, about 10 minutes back would have been a good moment. Alright, torpedoes away. Fired it a little too early, it hit the shields. In fact, why is that torpedo just hanging there? May just be me. Anyhow, shields are down, stay on the flank and just hammer away. And, oh yeah, small shockwave thing. Right, are you going to die yet? Thank you. Right. Be sure your objectives are complete, or else they will reset and you'll have to do it all over again, which perhaps could be added to that tooltip by way of a warning. Alright, so happy chat with this Suliban, who amazingly didn't backstab us. Apparently they learnt something in the last few hundred years. Alright, and we are done. Nah, just say we showed up and took the Romulans from you at gunpoint. I'm sure they'll be sympathetic. They already think we're mass murdering sods. Although at least they were kind enough to refer to me by title as Lieutenant. Alright, so hail Temer to report and actually turn in the mission. Again, it's prompted us to use the remote contact, which is a good thing. And there we go with the rewards. Now, is it going to give us prompts on what to do with these? Well, it's automatically equipped Cetra into the science slot, which is a good thing. And it's ploughed straight onto Crossroads at Craterus, which is the next mission. I can't help but think it would have been a good idea to say, hey, you really need to go and up your skill points, up your bridge officer skills, equip that new gear, and explain the difference between dual beam banks, turrets, single beam banks, and what the various bonuses do, because it hasn't really prompted us at all. So, again, bearing in mind that we're probably coming into this cold if we're a new player, the gear's just going to be sitting in the inventory and we've no idea what to do with it. However, fortunately I do have an idea to it, so let's get that new plasma torpedo loaded. Right, is that beam array worth replacing? Wider arc, lower damage, marginally, but the accuracy bonus might make up for it. Can make that decision later, but for the moment, let's just stick with it. Load it up. The other thing they really need to explain, and haven't at this point, is of course automatic fire. Now, I know about it, but again, a cold player, one who's never played STO before, won't necessarily get that you can right-click your weapons to have them just constantly cycle firing. However, there I think we shall leave it for the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Tribble Timewarp for the 19th of April. Until next time, farewell.